Hey girls, can you believe that summer is almost over? It's crazy. Well, I don't know about you, but we're coming out of just an amazing summer filled with ice cream and fraps and nachos and just all the summer things. And it is time to kick it into fall gear. For my family, that means getting back into a routine, heading back to school, lots of conferences, and just an overall full calendar. So we've talked to you about Prep Dish before. Let me tell you, I am counting on them more than ever as we head into this fall schedule, keeping my family healthy, but also keeping variety in our meal plans. So prepdish.com/heygirl. If you've never tried it, go and get your free trial. They will email you your meal plans. You'll get to choose from paleo or gluten-free, and they have dessert options. They give you your whole shopping list, and you get to take that shopping list, go buy your groceries, and then they have all of the recipes. It's easy prep, and honestly, it saves me so much time every single week that I use them. So I'm excited for Prep Dish this fall as my family shifts gears into the fall, making healthier choices with our eating because we all could use a few more vegetables in our diet. And I'll hope you'll join us. prepdish.com/heygirl. Check it out and let me know. I would love to know what your favorite meals are, and I'll share some of mine. Hey girls, and welcome to another episode of the Hey Girl podcast. We're your hosts, Bethany Needham
and Laurie Casagrande.
And each week, we get to share with you stories from women of all ages and stages of life who are following Jesus right where they're at.
Our prayer is that each story encourages you to run your race in your place.
Okay, ladies, we're back with our Best Of series, and I can't wait for today's episode, but I do feel like I should give you a heads up that I definitely needed some tissues for this one. In fact, nearly a whole package of tissues. But I got to meet Tori, years ago through the Simply Beautiful conference, and then getting the opportunity to have her in the studio, and Jenn interviewed her, and her just sharing her story, which is so powerful. And one of my favorite things about Hey Girl is getting to watch these guests even after the interview and all the work that God continues to do in their life. And Tori is one of my favorites. I follow her on Instagram. If you don't already follow her, go check out the show notes. Click on her Instagram. You absolutely should. She's adorable. But I believe the last time, it was over a year ago that we did this interview, and she did share that she was expecting a little girl, but now she has a beautiful little girl and another one on the way. And we're so excited for her. Tori, I just love watching your life and the work that God's doing. And you are one of the most beautiful people that I know, inside and out. I just love her. So grab your tissues and prepare to have all the feels in your heartstrings absolutely tugged. But I promise you, you're gonna love Tori as much as I do. So without further ado, let me reintroduce you to our dear friend, Tori.
It's Jenn, and I'm here with my girl, Tori, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear from her today. So, hi, Tori.
Hi.
I don't even know where to begin because I'm like, I've known Tori for a very long time. 6th grade? You were in 6th grade?
Well, I was technically in 5th, but yeah, like you started youth group when I was in 6th.
Okay. So, I've known her a very long time, but she has super exciting things going on in her life these days because she has a new baby. But let's back up and start at the very beginning. So, Tori, tell us about where you grew up and about your family, your upbringing, where you grew up, all that good stuff.
Okay, so I grew up in Attleboro, Massachusetts. Not too exciting. I call it the fake Massachusetts because it's like really close to Rhode Island. And I grew up, I'm one of 4 siblings. I have 2 sisters and a brother. Trying to think what else. I grew up in the church. My dad was always in the worship band. He played the guitar and sang. So I always grew up going to church. I don't really think I knew what being Christian was, but same old, like you just do it because your parents want you to. And so I moved to Rhode Island, 5 years ago. And then I met my husband, Mark, and we got married. We've been married almost 4 years. We have 2 beautiful children, my son, Jackson, and my newly daughter, Landree. She's going to be 3 weeks tomorrow. So that's my story.
Okay, so walk me through the season you're in right now. You literally 3 weeks ago just had a baby.
Yeah. I thought I'd be a lot more tired, but I think I'm still on have the baby endorphins going because I'm not that tired. So I can put makeup on. So that's.
But listeners, you should know that Tori, I think, would put makeup on in the middle of a hurricane.
I put it on in the hospital room. You best believe I had it in the delivery room. It says on the paperwork, do not wear makeup. I had a full face of makeup on. They didn't say anything to me, though.
No,
so
that's good.
I feel good about that.
So you have your makeup on. You're sleeping.
I mean, yeah, she sleeps she wakes up every 3 hours. She's smiling. Every 3 hours to eat and she goes right back to sleep. So she's pretty good. I'm crossing my fingers, knocking on wood that doesn't change.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's a good baby.
Okay. So you have 2 children.
Yep.
But one of them is Earthside.
Yes. Yeah, my daughter is here, obviously, and my son, Jax, we're going to try to get through this without crying, but Jenn, you can't start. My son Jax passed away 10 months ago almost, July 30th. He was our first child. When he was 4 months old, we started noticing developmentally he wasn't doing things that normal kids were doing. And so my mommy instincts, I knew something was wrong, but I thought maybe I had postpartum or something because I'm who thinks something's wrong with their baby? You're supposed to just be so happy and and this time now I know it was definitely just my instincts telling me because this time I don't feel that way. When he was probably 3.5 months old, I started noticing his soft spot was bulging and it almost looked like someone had a fist underneath his soft spot. And I had mentioned it to his pediatrician. I had mentioned it to a couple of the doctors he was seeing at the time for his reflux and stuff, and everyone was no, it's normal. Some babies just have big heads, and I have a big head. So I was all right, whatever. And literally one day we went to an intestine doctor for him, and they did a study on him. They did all these imaging, and they noticed that his liver was bigger than a normal baby and his size. And so I said, well, is that something that we should worry about? And they were we'll do more tests. Don't worry about it. And at that appointment, I had mentioned to his doctor, I said, is his soft spot look weird to you? Does his head look too big? And he was no, he's proportional. And I was okay. So that night we ended up rushing him to the emergency room because I couldn't wake him up from his sleep, which was so scary because they tell you don't shake your baby, but I was literally shaking him because he would not wake up. And so we rushed him to the emergency room, and the ER doctor took one look at him, was I'm pretty sure I know what he has. It's this thing called hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain. And if that's what it is, we're going to do some imaging. But if that's what it is, he needs to have immediate brain surgery. And so I was 23 at the time. And I'm what do you mean brain surgery? He's 4 months old. And so then they ended up finding out that was what it was. And so they did 2 brain surgeries. We stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. And while we were there, they did a lot of blood tests and genetic testing. And they were if anything comes back weird, we'll call you. And so we were okay. We went home just thinking hey, the worst that's going to happen is he can't play contact sports. We're going to go and his life will be normal.
Because he had a shunt put in.
Yeah.
Point, right?
So he had a shunt put in his head. Sorry, I skipped that part.
That's okay.
So to drain the fluid. And so they had actually told us if we had not come in the day that we did, that he would have had permanent brain damage because of how severe the swelling was. And so then we went home. A week later, they called us and they were hey, we have some blood tests back. Do you want to come talk to the metabolic doctor about whatever she found? And we were like, okay. Like, they kind of left it as like an option. So we were like, we weren't really thinking anything of it. So we went into the appointment, and literally it's like branded on me, as you can probably imagine, which you do. It's like that day is like branded on my soul, and I'll never be able to forget it. But I remember the day exactly. It was January 21st, and they told us, the doctor was horrible, by the way. She was just like, had no bedside manner. She basically told us our son was going to die, and it's a waiting game, so just go home. We were like,
And
okay.
he was how old at this point?
He was 4 months old. So I was like, first off, I kind of was rude, and I was like, can you leave us alone for a second, as I'm like sobbing? And she was like, okay. And then another doctor came in and kind of broke it down for us, explained it in a very nice way. She was so sweet. I'm pretty sure she wasn't even like, she was a fellow, so she wasn't even the real doctor. And she just was so sweet and kind. And she just explained to us that he had a disease called Niemann-Pick type A, and it's a fatal genetic disease. And that, you know, children with this disease, it's basically like a child's Alzheimer's. So basically, like, they start off, you know, pretty normal. They won't meet a lot of milestones, but they can do things like he smiled and clapped and laughed and played and could grab things. And then as soon as he turned 1 year old, it all just kind of like faded. Sorry. That was like the worst part, was watching his smile go away. So they told us we would probably have like till he was 18 months old was the longest cases they knew that lived. There were some that lived till they were 3 and longer, but mostly the children passed away at 18 months. And so there was no treatment. There was no cure. You just kind of wait for the inevitable. So, yeah.
So talk to me about those weeks and months of trying to live a daily life. How do you do it? What got you through? How did God show up in those moments?
So I was pretty pissed. Can I say that word? So at first, I feel like I was really bitter. Like a lot of people say that like after their child passed away, their bitterness like is at an all-time high. For me, that didn't happen. It happened when we first got the diagnosis.
Okay.
I was just like, didn't want to get out of bed. I was, and which is not like me at all, because I'm like I'm introverted, but I'm also like an extrovert, and I'm very outgoing, and I like to get up and have a routine and like shower and put my makeup on, and like that's just makes it easy for me to like do what I like my life. But I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to do anything. And at first I didn't even like want to hold him, because I was like, so you're telling me that I have to like be the best mom ever, and then he's just gonna die anyways? So the first like week, I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm just not even gonna get more attached, because I'm so attached to him. I'm not gonna get any more attached. And my husband was like, okay. Like, and then like literally that next like hour, I was like kissing him and everything. And he's like, oh yeah, let's see how long that lasts. Because he just knows me better than I know myself sometimes. And he was just like, you're not going to be able to do that. You love him so much. And he was right. Like, I thought that. And then the next second I was like,
it's that like moment of like self-protection.
Yeah.
Where you're like, no, I can't allow my heart to love anymore, because it's going to hurt so much.
Exactly.
But Mark knew.
Yeah.
He's like, no, Tori.
Yeah. And he was right. So, I mean, and of course, like, I can't even imagine, like, he's not even here, and every single day, my love for him gets stronger. So, it's just crazy, like, having a kid. It's like, when they say, like, your heart's walking around outside your body, it's, like, so true. It just feels literally like the day he passed away was, like, a piece of me that I'll never get back. So those days and, you know, weeks were like really hard. And then, you know, me and my husband sat down and we're like, what does this look like for us? Like, let's make a plan, because no one else has a plan for us. So let's figure it out. And we kind of just like prayed about it and talked to each other a lot, and, you know, talked to our families. And we kind of just decided, okay, if we're still going to pray for a miracle every single day, but if we're not going to get it like the way that we want it, then we're gonna like make his life like the best it can be. So we wanted to make sure that like every day he woke up, he didn't know he was sick. And really until like the last couple months, he really didn't know. And, you know, people will say, oh, it's because he, you know, his brain was swollen. He really wasn't present. But if you met him, you knew that like he was so present, even though he couldn't talk to you and stuff, just with his eyes, he would look at you and you just said everything. So we sat down, we made like a list of 50 things. And we called it like a live list instead of, you know, people were like, you should make a bucket list. And I was like, that's a little morbid. Let's do something a little bit more, you know, happy. And we just tried to like do all the things. We did everything on the list. The only thing that we didn't do was plant a tree. His cousins, my husband's cousins actually planted one in our yard with like a little plaque. So everything on his list got done and we just had so much fun doing it. And it was like we chose to like live instead of just accept that he was going to die. And I don't even like to say die. I feel like, you know, I always like to say pass away because now he's like in heaven and he's healed. And, you know, die just sounds like such a horrible word. We just try to make his life the best it could be. And I think we did a pretty good job.
I think you did a great job.
Yeah.
You did a great job with him.
It's one thing I can say with like certainty is that I have no regrets. Because we lived every day like it was his last. And when you live like that, it's like crazy.
Yeah. It's that joy and pain coming together at the same time, all the time, every day.
Yeah.
Talk to me. You and I have talked about this, about being the mom of a medically sensitive kid. You took care of him at home for a long time. Talk about that a little and just like what that entailed for you.
Usually when a child has a fatal disease, you get kind of hooked up with a bunch of people in like the hospital. And we got connected with a palliative care doctor because they told us, you know, now he's comfortable, but at one point it's going to reach a point where the disease causes their organs to swell until they're too big for their body. And it pushes on other things, which is eventually why they pass away. So they told us, we're going to, you know, hook you up with all these people. And so that eventually if, you know, you need hospice and you need all these things, which, you know, they were like, medically, you're going to need them, that we can make sure they're available to you and you're already familiar with them. So, you know, they started talking to us about what it looked like for us to have him in like a facility for him to pass away, where there was all like 24-hour nursing staff and things like that. And just all the options that they were giving us just didn't seem like comfortable for us. So me and my husband had, the week before we found out that he had the disease, we had put an offer on like our dream home. One of the reasons why we like loved this house is because there was so much light in it. Like you don't even have to like turn the lights on because there's just so much natural light. The property was amazing. And like before we knew that he was going to pass away, we had, you know, just envisioned like all the things that we were going to do, put a pool and a swing set and he was going to be able to run around. And the day after we found out about his disease, they called us and told us, oh, your offer's been accepted. And we were like, at first, okay, no, we're going to stay in our house now because it just seemed like it was too much at the time. And then we just kind of felt like this push to be there. We took Jax there again and we just like walked around and my husband was like, this is just the place that we want to be. And why should we stop? Because, you know, like something horrible is happening to us. And so then we decided, okay, let's move in. So moved into the house and it was the best decision we ever made because that was where we made Jax's room, like, you know, tons of like inspirational quotes on the wall and just things that like when he woke up every morning, like, you know, he felt like a normal kid. He didn't feel like I'm in a hospital bed with like people poking me and I have an IV in my arm 24/7 and we didn't want any of that stuff. So his doctor was like awesome and she would like come to the house for visits. And in the end, when he got really sick, she would do blood draws at the house and she was just like amazing. Anything we needed, she was there. So we decided that we wanted to have him be there. And that was where, you know, when Jesus called him home, that was where he was going to be because we didn't want him scared. From the very beginning, me and my husband said that Christians kind of get confused when it comes to death. That's our reward. It's not a consequence. And I didn't want him to be scared. So I decided, like, even in the end, like, the last couple weeks, we had talked to Jackson. We read him Bible verses, and we told him, like, you know, what we thought heaven was like. And, you know, you're going to get to do all these things. And even, like, the last moment when his soul left his body, he opened his eyes and looked at me, and he just looked happy. And that was the first time I saw him look like that in a long time. And so for me, that's why I know, you know, where I'm going is exactly where Jesus says we're going. But, you know, I wanted him to not be scared. And so the way that it ended was exactly how we, I don't know if want is the right word, but how we anticipated it happening. And so that was kind of like the best case scenario for us. And it, you know, God was good to us in that, you know, we got to hold him. And the day that he left, like, he was swimming in the pool and he was just a normal kid. And so that's all we wanted, him to feel normal in a not so normal situation.
So talk to me about getting pregnant with Landree. Because these two stories, like, it's not just like you had Jax and then you had Landree. These two stories intertwine very closely together.
Yeah.
In kind of a miraculous way.
Yeah. So we, this is kind of like, I feel like a taboo subject. Okay. Me and my husband both have the genes that make up his disease, which we didn't know we had. So they told us every time we have a child, it would be a 1 in 4 chance that the baby would have this disease again, and a 1 in 4 chance that the baby would be healthy, and then a 2 in 4 chance that the baby would have the gene that me and my husband have. So they would be fine, like me and my husband, but when they got older and they had kids, they would have to, you know, talk to their partners about, I have this gene, you need to figure out if you do too. We decided to go through IVF. They can do this thing called PGD, which you can look up if you're interested. It's just where they can actually see if the baby has the gene. We went through like 2 rounds of that, and we couldn't get pregnant. I have no fertility problems. Like, never have had a fertility problem in my life. They were checking me, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you." And so then, you know, me and my husband kind of just like prayed about it, and we were like, I felt at peace about it the first 2 times we did it. And then I started to have this feeling like this wasn't what was supposed to happen after, you know, we had a positive pregnancy test. And then it was actually like a chemical pregnancy. Okay. So I was never pregnant, but it showed up on the test that I was. After that, it was like heartbreaking. And after everything we had been through, it was just
and Jax is still alive.
Yeah, he was still here. And this was probably in June of last year that we just decided, okay, you know what? We're going to stop all the medications. I pretty much had gained like 20 pounds. And not that that's like matters, but it was just a lot of...
Because you were taking
Yeah, fertility medicine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that caused the weight gain.
Yeah. And so I was exhausted, and I was like already exhausted taking care of my son, who was, at that point, he was on so much pain medication that I was like, I'm not going to stress myself out. Like in the last, because we knew it was coming in the last moments of his life. Like, I just want to be fully present and focused. And he came to like every appointment with us. So it wasn't like we were like leaving him or anything, but it started to become like a chore and a job. And I was just like, this just isn't for us. So we're like, maybe in a couple years we'll revisit it. But right now, this is just what it is. That was in June. And all I wanted was to give Jax a sibling. So that they would know each other, and that it wasn't like one family. And then he passed away, and we had more kids, and it was another family, and just disconnected. We didn't want it to be like that. After he started to get really sick, and then he passed away, we had to start thinking about what we were going to do for, like, you know, a service. For us, me and my husband had to have conversations about what we were going to do way before we should ever even have had to have those conversations. You should never have to, as a parent, like, plan your child's funeral. So we decided that we needed time after he passed away, and we just talked in depth about where we knew he was, and that body was not his, and we didn't feel comfortable. For some people, it felt right to have a gravesite and a funeral and all that, but that just didn't feel right to us. We had him cremated, and he was placed in this like beautiful urn, and we got to grieve in the way that felt right for us. And I know that's what Jax would have wanted, and not feel pressure to have to like tie everything up in this beautiful bow because people were watching you. So we were able for a month to just like privately grieve, and people that were close to us could come and be with us. And we really weren't even talking about having other kids. We knew that that was something that we wanted, but we weren't really talking about it. And then in August, we started planning his celebration of life service. In September, the morning of his service, I remember waking up and I really felt crappy. And I knew I was going to feel crappy because I was going to something that I shouldn't have to go to, but I felt like peaceful. Like it was the weirdest feeling. I can't even describe it. Like I felt like at peace about what I was having to do, because I was having to get up in front of I don't even know how many people were there. And,
a lot.
Yeah. And like talk about my son. And that was like, that weighed so heavy on my heart because like I wanted to do him justice and I didn't want to mess up or like forget anything.
And you didn't. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you. And I was like, Mark, to my husband, I was like, you can, anytime you want to step in here. And he's like, I don't talk in front of people. He read like a poem and he's like, that's it for me. And I was like, okay. So that's all of me. All right. And then at that, I was actually pregnant at his celebration of life, which I think is like such a cool thing because it was like we were celebrating his life and I had a new life inside of me and I had no idea. And I felt so nauseous that day. Looking back now, I'm like, oh, of course I was pregnant. But I wasn't even thinking about that because we weren't trying and we weren't like, it just happened. And I truly believe it was like God all the way because he knew when the right time would be and he knew what child was supposed to be ours. And it took a whole new meaning to me, like when he says like that he knits them together in our womb, because he literally knew the exact soul that would come to our family and just heal so much stuff for us. And so on his birthday, I randomly was like, which was like 3 days later, I was like, I'm gonna take a pregnancy test. My husband's like, what? Okay, go ahead, it's gonna be negative, but all right. And I wasn't even like late or anything, and I took the test and right away the lines popped up and I was like, okay. So I called my doctor right away and I'm like, I'm coming in today, you need to give me a blood test. And she's like, okay. And so I came and then she called me and she's like, yeah, Tori, like your numbers look great and you're pregnant, and congratulations. And that was on his birthday. So keeping that secret was really hard.
Well, and too, I mean, there was some apprehension with that because you were gotten pregnant naturally.
Oh yeah. I'm having mommy brain right now because you're right.
There was still that 1 in 4 chance.
Yeah.
2 in 4 chance.
Yeah. And that was tough because thinking about having to do that again was like torture. Like I was like the whole time we had a test done to see if the baby was healthy, and the whole time waiting I was just like, in my heart I knew that she was healthy and she was fine, but in my mind I was like, holy moly, like this could be a crap show, like this could be bad. I almost said the S word.
But Landree
is healthy. She doesn't have Niemann-Pick, and she doesn't even have the gene, which is so crazy because they like never hear of that happening. Usually they have the gene and she doesn't have anything. So we just are incredibly lucky, and I don't believe in coincidences. That was like completely designed by God. And I always say that Jax picked her for us, and he just wanted to wait until he got there to pick the perfect soul for our family. So, yeah, it comes kind of full circle a little bit.
Talk to me about your trip to Colorado.
Oh. Do we know? I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Do we have to?
Yes, you do.
So we have some pretty like amazing friends that have walked through not just a similar journey, but the exact same one as us. Their name is Shannon and Steve, and their son Wilder was diagnosed with Niemann-Pick type A. Actually, him and Jax look very similar to each other, which is how I kind of first found her. I stalked her a little bit on social media.
I'm totally fine with that. I love stalking. It's good.
So when we found out about the disease and they told us like how many kids had this disease or didn't have this disease. When I started researching mom's blogs and things like that, I just was like grasping at straws. I wanted to talk to somebody who knew what we were going to go through, but also understanding that a lot of those people probably wouldn't, it had been years since their children had passed away, like probably didn't want to like share, about it. And it's because it's painful and some questions are just like, yeah, you don't want to go there. I found Shannon and Steve because they started a foundation for their son called the Wilder Nation Foundation. And they are actually in the process right now of creating a treatment for Niemann-Pick, which is like crazy. They are like funded completely on their own. They started this from the ground up. They're like, they sit on the board.
Because right now there's no cure.
No, there's not even a treatment. There's trials that can prolong their life a little bit, but it also could do the opposite and could kill them sooner than they would have to. We got invited to go to this gala where they raise money for all the things that they do. At first we were like kind of apprehensive because Jax had just passed away and we really didn't want to fly or go anywhere, but then we kind of just felt like Jax was like telling us to do it. And like one of the promises that I made to him when he was passing away was that I would say yes to things. And so I said yeah. And the funny part was I didn't even really ask Mark first before I said yes. I just kind of said yes and then like was like just finagling it a little bit. So I was like, so what do you think about this? You don't have to say yes. Just like, sit on it for a little bit, like when you ask your parents to do something like, oh yeah. And so then he was like, yeah, we can do it. We can go. And so it was like a really whirlwind trip. We like got there on a Friday, and you have to also keep in mind they have a time change. So we got there on a Friday to Denver and we left on like a Sunday. So we were there like for like two days, I think. So quick. And it was a long flight. So, but it was such an amazing, emotionally exhausting weekend, but it was so amazing. We got to like meet two families, Steve and Shannon, and then also this guy Chip and his wife who lost their daughter to Niemann-Pick, and they honored Jax with like a tribute video, and it was just like highly emotional, but it was also like super healing in a way because it was like you felt like not alone, because I feel like there's a difference between being like lonely and alone. Yeah. And for like 22 months of his life, I pretty much felt very like lonely. Not so much alone because there was always people around, but just very lonely. Like no one really understood, and people would say, oh, I understand. Oh, if that ever happened to me, I don't know what I would do. And the things people say to you, and you're like, okay, I get it. Like, you're sad for me. Cool. Thanks. But how do you think I feel? And you don't want to play that card, but it's like, really, dude? Come on. So, I mean, now, which is like, makes me sick, but it's like you want to know somebody who knows your pain. And for me, like, when I like got to like hug Shannon and like we had been talking so much, going back emails and texts, and when we just like hugged each other, it's just kind of cool how like two little boys, kind of bond people that live across the world from each other, because they live in Arizona and we live in Rhode Island. So it's just crazy.
And what did Shannon say on stage about you?
Oh my gosh. Well, no, she was just so sweet, and she just like was like, I can't even believe you guys are here. And she just like, because they had the same mantra about their son's life, and he lived till he was 3. That was just like a very emotional weekend. Yeah.
And she said that it was your faith that encouraged her.
Yeah.
And gave her strength.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that. I know. It's hard to say it about yourself, but I will say it for you. Yeah. Because I think that is so true for a lot of people who've watched you walk this road.
Yeah.
To see your faith in all of it. Because I will say, to see, you've written a lot on your blog about it. You do a lot of Instagram stories too, that you've allowed people into your story when it's hard to let people into the story, because people will say, some people are super loving and super awesome, and some people say things and you want to throat punch them.
Yeah.
So I just appreciate that so much more, that you have allowed people into your life and into this,
Thank you.
into Jax's life and his story. And because of that, like, his life and your faith have touched so many more people because of that. Because most 2-year-old boys don't touch a lot of people's lives. They touch a lot of gross, germy things, but they don't touch lives.
That is true.
So, and Jax did that
Yeah.
more than I think you'll probably ever know. So,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. What would you say to someone? What advice would you have for someone who's facing a medical diagnosis or just facing just hard things right now? What advice would you give them?
Well, this is something that I've learned. I mean, I learned a lot of things. I feel like even after he's been gone, I've learned a lot of stuff by being his mom. And I think I'll be 90 and probably still learning things. Mm-hmm. My biggest advice is to pray, but to also know that your prayers, I think, like, we pray specific ways. Mm-hmm. Like, my prayer was like, heal my son, give him a miracle. Mm-hmm. And we expect God to, like, answer it specifically. And we forget sometimes that, like, our prayers are always answered, but the way that he answers them sometimes isn't the way that we want them. Yeah. I prayed every day for my son to be healed. And how I wanted it to be healed was here with me. But his way was to be in heaven. But he still answered my prayer for healing. So I think that's, like, crucial to remember. It's hard because, like, we're human and we're selfish and we want what we want. And if someone told me, like, cut off your left leg and God will give you your baby back, I would be like, okay. I wouldn't cut my arms because I'd want to hold him, but I would cut my legs.
You're so smart. You're so smart.
No, but I would do anything to have him back. But I also know that, like, here, his body couldn't like be fully Jax, like, who he was. And, like, I saw him at, like, his happiest, and then I saw him at his worst. And if I could choose to have, like, what I would want as his mom, like, in the selflessness of me, I want him to be happy, and his happiness was dependent on him going to heaven. Yeah. And so that's, like, the only advice I would really give is just to pray, but to realize that, like, your prayers are going to be answered. God answers them tenfold, but sometimes it's just not how we want it. Mm-hmm. And to not get discouraged when it's not answered the way you want it to be answered. Because I mean, I was pretty pissed, Yeah. And I, like, have had words with God. Mm-hmm. I kind of wanted to throw punch him, but I think also understanding that he can handle that. Like, he's absolutely bigger than us, and he can handle, like, all the stuff, like, the beautiful, the hard, the messy, the broken. Like, he handles it, and he's like, give it to me. Mm-hmm. Like, and not be scared to, like, go to him with all that. Like you were saying before, like, I did openly share Jax with the world, but I also, like, didn't share a lot of, like, the bad stuff. I didn't share, like, his suffering and his pain because I didn't want that to be what he was remembered for. Mm-hmm. And that was private for our family. And it was something that, like, I didn't feel like I needed to share to, like, have people understand how good God is, like, absolutely. I feel like his life just shared that. And then I got to, like, be witness to, like, him bring glory to God, which is, as a mom, that's awesome. Absolutely. Our goal is to get our kids to heaven. Yeah. And, I got him there. So I feel pretty good about that.
Oh, Tor. Oh, my goodness. Well, this has been quite an interview. I've only cried 7 times, so it's totally good.
I didn't cry at all.
No, nothing. But so I'm going to just totally flip the tables and say, what's the most superficial thing about you? I also should say that I've known you since 6th grade, and we've walked a lot of roads together. Yes. My husband was a youth pastor for many years, and I've seen you grow and bloom into a beautiful woman. And
thank you.
I mean, listeners,
it was scary there for a little bit.
It was a little scary. There were some years where I was on my knees for you.
Yeah.
But
we were in the trenches.
yeah, God did a
yeah.
work in you,
Yeah.
and you're only 25.
Yeah, you know, my soul's a little like 40.
Yeah, but I think it's awesome. So tell us about the most superficial things about you.
Well, I said this before, but how much time do we have? Because
You just list them off, girl.
okay, most superficial thing about me is my eyelash extensions, and also that I wear a full face of makeup like all the time. But that's just like, I just feel like we're a temple. We should make it look pretty. You know, you wouldn't show up to a temple and there wouldn't be like trash and like
Right.
smelly garbage everywhere. So like, let's
Jesus
kinda,
wants
yeah.
you to look good.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I feel like also too, there's some times where like, you know, for me especially, I can be like having the worst day ever and then I put like some mascara on and it's life changing.
It is. Okay.
So.
Now, do you have like a favorite brand that you use? Or are you just like all over the place?
Well, what do you mean, like just makeup in general?
Yeah, anything.
I wear the same foundation every day. Tried and true. It's a little pricey, but it's worth every penny.
What is it? I know. I need to know.
Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would literally like crack the bottle open and like use like the last bits of it's gold.
Okay.
It's literally gold.
Okay.
But I think it's like $40.
But does it last forever?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I could literally go into the Sahara with this face right now and nothing would come off. Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta work at the end of the night though to like get this, you know.
Get it off?
Yeah.
Okay, so people like me who don't wash their face at the end of the night probably.
You don't wash your
I know,
face?
Tori, I know.
Get a makeup wipe. It's like the
I
simplest
know,
thing.
but I'm so lazy. It's the worst. So anyway, okay, what else?
I have a couple things.
Okay.
Sunless tanner is just the world.
Well, and you go and get you get a spray tan sometimes?
Yeah, so one of my really good friends actually owns like a place where she does it.
Okay.
So
do you want to give her a shout out on here?
yeah, my friend
Link.
Carrie's sweet. She's thebomb.com.
Okay.
I'll give you guys her little link if you're in
Okay.
Rhode Island. She's in East Greenwich, so but she's really good. But if I can't go to her, I use this stuff called Loving Tan, and you just put it on and it literally instantly you're tan, and then you wash it off in 2 hours.
Oh, but it washes off. Okay.
No. Like you wash it off, right? Like you get in the shower and you wash it off, and then like you wake up the next morning and look like you just sunned on the beach. Us white girls.
I'm just looking at Bethany right now because
I am literally
this is
the
our weakness.
pastiest human under all this tan.
You and your it's weird because knowing your family, knowing your sisters,
You
who
would
are
think
white
I
as
had,
white.
yeah. You would think that I was tan because I just don't ever let anybody see me not tan. But if you actually saw, like, it's scary. Like if you saw my tan lines right now, you would be like, yeah, it's like this paper, like white.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad because I'm
gonna
Irish.
get some of those. I want those.
Yeah, and it's easy to put on because when you put it on, it like shows you where you're putting it, so it's not, and like you can't mess up.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not like orangey, so it's yeah. And then I think, yeah, I mean, I could go for days with this question.
You want to do one more? One more.
Clothes. I'm very superficial about clothes. That's my like.
You love clothes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good.
But just to be fair,
Yeah.
your husband has a few pairs of shoes.
Yeah, you could say that. A few hundred.
Yeah. So
Yeah, he's bad. He's worse than me. He literally will buy like Jordans, which I don't even know if people know what that is now.
they do because
it's
my
like,
7-year-old son has a pair of
Okay.
Jordans, so
and like he buys them and doesn't wear them. Or if he wears a pair of shoes one time, like he has like shoes in his closet that have been there for like 6 years that he like when I get something new, I can't wait to wear it. He like stores it for a special day. Like I don't know what it's the cutest like thing, but it's also like I'll buy him something and like three Christmases go by and like he still hasn't used it. And I'm like, why do I buy you presents again?
see.
Yeah.
So you guys compliment each other though. You're both.
Yeah, I mean,
shoppers.
he's a gem. I
He
got
is a
lucky
gem.
with that one.
He is a gem.
Yeah, he's like the girl version of me, but in the manliest way possible.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh well, Tori, thank you.
What do you want people to think my husband's like feminine?
No, it's not feminine. There's no way
He's laughing at me.
No. Tori, thank you so much for literally like bearing your soul today and
Anytime,
sharing.
people.
I know you're an open book, but
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about some really, really hard things, and I'm just so appreciative of you for just being vulnerable and just sharing. And I hope that there's someone out there listening who hears your story and probably is brokenhearted over something in their life right now and can just be blessed by your story and just encouraged. So thank you so much. I love you a lot.
I love you too.
Hey girls, that was my interview with Tori, and I hope that it encouraged you and that you were just inspired by her story, because it's not an easy story to tell, obviously. And I just want to testify that, like, I've known Tori a very long time, and what she said today, like, this isn't just lip service. Like, this is something that she lived and that she clings to God in all these things. And I'm just so thankful that she was brave enough and vulnerable enough just to come on the podcast and share just the hardest season of her life with us, with you guys. And so, Bethany, thoughts, feelings, talk to me.
I think from the moment that I met Tori, faith and grace were things that just, I feel like, poured out of her. I had the opportunity to meet and hold Jax at my house. I did not know his story at the time, but she came over. It was for a Simply Beautiful meeting, and she had Jax with her. And I remember, like, because I'm just magnetically attracted to babies, so I was like, oh, can I hold him? And she's like, yeah, of course, and handed him over. And I held him for a while, and I think you told me the story later on, and my heart broke. And then to watch, and I was one of those on the other side of Instagram, though I'd met her face to face, I wasn't right in her life through that whole journey. But even just watching it from a distance and watching how she used every opportunity to point back to Jesus. And I think the things that strike me about Tori is just how young she is to have walked as much as she has walked through, and the incredible maturity that she has and wisdom from all of that. And I just love her. She's also just a really fun person to spend time around, which you think about people who have been hurt and experience hurt like she has. If anybody had the right to maybe have a chip on their shoulder or be rough around the edges, then no one at all would blame or fault her. But that's so not Tori. When you meet her, she just is full of life and smiling and positive and amazing eyelashes.
Yeah. And I love too just how God wove their story so perfectly about how she got pregnant with Landree, and just that whole story is just so beautiful and so just redemptive to me. And I just love the whole thing, and I'm just so thankful that she chose to share her story with us, because yeah, like you said, like, you could be bitter or you could just choose not to share your story, and here she is sharing her story and just sharing how God walked her through it, and I just love that.
Well, girls, I hope that this was as much of a gift to you as it was for us, just being a part of listening to her share, for Jenn being able to just ask questions and interview. And I know for you, being someone who's walked with Tori for so long, it was probably bittersweet too. You knew a lot of the behind the scenes. And so thank you, Jenn, for doing that interview. And so grateful to Tori for coming on. And like any other time, girls, if this is something that it stirred something in you, or maybe you just want to send a shout out to Tori and send her some love, please reach out. We love the messages. We love the encouragement. We really do pass it on to either one another or to our guests as you kind of give shout outs to them. And feel free to reach out to Tori. I know that she's somebody that is definitely, you should follow her on Instagram. And oh my goodness, baby Landree, I could stare at that beautiful baby all day. And so, yeah, follow us, like us, whatever you got to do. We love you. We need you. Otherwise, this is just an awkward...
Us talking to each other.
Yes, talking to ourselves. All right. Have a great week, girls. We'll hopefully have a great story for you next week.
Gosh, that was amazing.
That would have definitely made the bloopers.
The bloopers.
What's the ones do you sing? Is this from? I think I saw this on the 700 Club. I will only wear bathing suits on camera for Kat. I'm gonna take a Jenn breath.
It's what all the famous actresses and actors do, you know, they take a breath. It's very classic. I'm just saying.
I mean, it makes sense. Breathing. All the famous
Taking
people do
a moment to center yourself before you go live. That's all.
I think I need more than a moment to center myself.